Hello, and welcome to the Author Spotlight series of the Journal of Korean Studies. My name is Peter Moody, and I'm the managing editor of the Journal of Korean Studies. I'm conducting this interview from our editorial office at the George Washington University's Institute for Korean Studies. Today we have a very special interview. We will be joined by Dr. Hye-Kyoung Kwon, this year's recipient of the Outstanding Article Award, which we select each year. Dr. Kwon is a lecturer at San Diego State University. She received her PhD in Theater and Performance Studies. Her forthcoming book manuscript investigates Korean beauty, or K-beauty, as it has been imagined and performed as a form of labor from World War II until the present day. Her work that received the Outstanding Article Award, which we will be discussing today, is called The Post-World War II Rise of AmorePacific: Women's Labor, South Korea's Cosmetic-Product Industry, and the Rise of the Park Chung Hee Regime of 1961 to 1979. And now Dr. Kwon is joining us. Congratulations, Dr. Kwon, on winning the Most Outstanding Article Award this year.
Thank you so much. It was honor for me to have this interview and the award too.
Okay, great. Well, I really enjoyed reading this article. So, before we start our discussion on your article, if you could tell me a little about your research generally and how you came to this topic.
Okay. My research examines K-beauty, but it's not confined to its uh, current social media driven representation. So today, K-beauty is often discussed in relation to plastic surgery and medical tourism and also K-pop, right? But I wanted to go beyond these dominant narratives. So my work, as you read my article, so my work traces the historical trajectory of K-beauty, looking at how it developed long before the rise of social media and global consumer trends. So the idea really took shape while I was working on my dissertation.
And can you tell me
So,
just briefly about your dissertation, just so we all are
uh,
on the same page?
okay, so the dissertation is about also K-beauty, but it starts from the Japanese colonialism
Okay.
in my dissertation. And actually, this article grew out of two different chapters into one single article. So, and while I'm working on my dissertation, I came across the AmorePacific archive,
Hmm.
and which is open to the public. And I realized that it could serve as a starting point for understanding the industry's deeper history. And this is important because Amore Pacific was Korea's first cosmetic company, founded in 1945, just after the liberation. So, and also, uh, this company is not just company selling beauty products, I think. So it's really deeply related to Korea's post-war modernization, state economic policies, and also evolving beauty ideals too.
Okay, great. I mean, you really look at the roots of the K-beauty phenomenon long
Yeah,
before
exactly.
people were using that term
Yeah,
in
exactly.
regular usage. What do you think, though, are the most important contributions or takeaways of your work, perhaps for modern Korean history or just contemporary studies of K culture?
Yeah, of course. There's a lot of studies on K culture, especially uh, have been growing now. But then most of it focus on its contemporary global expression and global success, right?
Yes.
So what I examine is the early development of the domestic Korea's cosmetic industry, particularly in the post-war period. And this was a very intriguing time when the local market in the post-war period was dominated not only by smuggled foreign cosmetics, mostly circulating through underground channels like the black market, spreading all across the country at the time, and but also by locally manufactured knockoffs. So this was partly because the demand for cosmetics was high and also it was expensive. So the supply did not meet the demand. So because of it's a post-war period. So that's why this kind of a phenomenon and market happened. So I think the contribution wise, I think my study challenges the idea that K-beauty is just a recent phenomenon or social media driven representation uh, or driven by Hallyu. So I think in looking at this historical context, I think we can see how it has been shaped and developed by decades of economic shift and technological development as well, and also gendered labor practices.
You write in your article that you want to shed light on previously obscured labor of women, both in paid employment in the workplace and in unpaid domestic roles at home. So, how does the labor of women that you focus on differ from the dominant histories of women in labor during the Park Chung Hee period, which previous scholars have largely looked at in terms of the textile industry?
Great. This is a really great question, I guess, because one of the major focuses of my research on K-beauty is women's labor.
Hmm.
So, but most of scholar discussions on Korean women's labor, especially during the Park Chung-hee era, focus on factory workers,
Yeah.
especially in the textile industry, as you
Hmm.
said. So these
For
women
export
often,
purposes, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. So these women, in literature or any art forms or any propaganda posters, they were often portrayed as self-sacrificing daughters whose labor were a little bit exploited by the state, right? I think this narrative is still important, but I wanted to explore a broader and more complex picture of women's labor during that time. So when I read many autobiographies and
Hmm.
writings of former factory workers, and actually I conducted some of them. And one thing really stood out to me was some of them were actually involved in selling cosmetics alongside their main jobs or in between them.
Hmm.
So that made me very, very curious about other forms of women's labor, but that haven't been received as much attention in scholarship.
Hmm.
So that's when I visited AmorePacific archive for the first time several years ago. So one of the most intriguing things that I found was the door-to-door cosmetic saleswoman.
Hmm.
So actually, at the right front of the archive, you can see the door-to-door saleswoman's collection of uniforms, cosmetic bags, and their bicycles to moving around, and their cosmetic samples they provided a lot of brochures. So this is because also Pacific was the first company to adopt this direct sales model in the
Hmm.
early 1960s, more precisely 1964. So this was a unique profession, I think, because of course it provided paid work, but it also required the women to engage with the public, which was quite rare uh, at the time. So, yeah,
If
that's
I could
how I.
just come in for a follow-up question. When I was reading that part about the door-to-door sales of cosmetics, it reminded me of what has taken place in the United States, which is the it was the Mary Claire, I think that's the name of the product line, where the women who sell these products are not only looking for customers or looking for other sellers, right?
Right, right.
So
I think
was recruitment a part of their role as
right.
door-to-door saleswomen? And was
Yes,
it
of
was
course.
it a period? Sorry, was it
Yeah.
a pyramid scheme in some sense as well?
Well, I think that their role also included kind of recruiting other sellers too.
Hmm.
So um, so I think that the brand is a Mary Kate. It's
Mary
a Mary
Kate, yes,
Kate.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and also there's another US based door-to-door sales company, which was Avon. Have you heard?
What's the name of it?
Avon. Avon.
Avon. Oh yes, I have heard of
Yeah.
Avon. Yeah.
Yeah, so these are in the United States context, these are the two companies that started the direct sales model. But
Hmm.
Amore Pacific was the first one in South Korea in 1964, and that really contributed to the early growth of Amore Pacific and generally the whole cosmetic industry.
Okay. Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. Something that really impressed me about your work is your documentation of so much rich source material from the newspaper advertisements of Amore Pacific products to newsreels. One might call them propaganda newsreels that sought to influence people's consumption patterns. How did you come across these and other primary sources? And were there any challenges in your utilization or interpretations of them?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, this article actually grew out of two different chapters from my dissertation, right? So
Hmm.
one chapter was about the 1950s under Seungman Lee government, Lee Seungman
Hmm.
government,
Hmm.
and the other one examined more on the Park Chung Hee era. So when I started revising these chapters into this article, actually I had a strong foundation of a primary archival materials because I had conducted almost all archival materials uh, during the time, but it was still really challenging to bridge the different sources, right? From enterprises, the state, and the media, like Daehan News you mentioned.
Hmm.
So also two different eras, politically very different eras. So I think it was challenging to bridge them to create a cohesive narrative or a solid argument.
I was also struck by the images that you chose to include, such as this fashion show for a simple clothing campaign. And
Hmm.
there was also this street parade image, an image from a street parade with floats that are enticing people to spend less, not more. So, could you explain what you thought was most illuminating about these photos that led you to include them within your article?
Well, yeah, these photos are very, very important. And I got them from the presidential archives. And these images I incorporated are very crucial to prove that the state mobilized these women in very,
Hmm.
very different ways. So this show is a fashion show. The state organized a fashion show for to encourage women spend less or pursue their frugal lifestyle rather than spending a lot or foreign cosmetics. So this is kind of a fashion show reinforcing the state's economic policies, but women were mobilized in this, and most of them were working in the entertainment industry, and yeah, I think they are mostly actresses.
Oh,
And
okay. So they
yeah,
hired actresses to
yeah,
dress frugally rather than
yes,
dress as
yes.
luxuriously or lavishly, right?
Yeah, so you can see that the other photo, that's a public parade of actresses. Actually, the this photo is more well known and more spread. And
Yeah, because when I saw this, I was very fascinated because usually parades are all about conspicuous consumption and many colors and people dressing in very luxurious costumes. Uh, but they're like Fat Tuesday, right? Mardi Gras,
right,
just eat
right,
all the time and wear these beads and necklaces. But this has an opposite message,
right,
as well as
right.
a trying to facilitate a different kind of atmosphere, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's a very spectacular scene on public, and it's uh really to show something the state want the audience to see it. But the content of this fashion show and public parade mobilized by actresses was, to keep very contained lifestyle, be frugal, and also to buy domestic ones rather than foreign cosmetics or textiles. So it's a really striking example uh, showing how actresses, it's a women's profession too, right? So they were mobilized to promote the state campaign, uh, but their labor has been recognized as a formal labor. It's never recognized as a formal labor. So, but
Hmm.
you can see that women were mobilized in very different ways, in different uh, situations, and all of these was to reinforce and to promote the state's economic policies.
So my final question is, where's your research or publication plans headed next?
Well, I have a forthcoming article on soybean paste girl, or 된장녀 in Korean. So
Hmm.
that would be published in the Journal of Popular Culture soon. And I'm
Soybean paste
also,
girl. That's what you said?
yes,
Okay.
yes, 된장녀, 된장녀.
Hmm.
So I discussed this term, this very misogynistic term, but in terms of South Korea's current economic precarity of the millennial generations.
Hmm.
So I think it might be very interesting. And also, I'm working on my book manuscript, which uh, historicizes K-beauty from 1945 to the present. So AmorePacific was part of that, and I'm hoping to see it published soon.
Okay, great. And we got to see a preview of part of what your book is going to look like, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, we look forward to reading your book. And thank you so much for joining us. And thank you,
Thank you.
audience out there, for listening to our Author Spotlight series. And we hope to have more of these interviews in the future. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.